All right, what up, what up, what up? This is DB talking now, DB talking birds, DB talking Philadelphia Eagles. Guys, we have quite a few things to get into today. Happy Thursday, everyone. Hope everybody's doing really, really well. Obviously, one of the first things that we want to get into is, the trade deadline came and went. And, Fletcher Cox was not moved. Deshaun Watson was not traded for. Those guys stayed put. Obviously Von Miller was traded. The Eagles went ahead and made a last-minute trade for rookie defensive back Kary Vincent. And I want to get into Kary Vincent just a little bit, only because he's similar to one of those guys that I think of when I think of Tay Gowan. Back when we were doing the draft, both Tay Gowan and Kary Vincent were two guys that I really liked the potential of. When it came to late round, mid to late round picks. So the Eagles got their hands on these guys. Obviously, these two guys, Tay Gowan and Kary Vincent, were two guys that the Eagles were probably targeting in the draft that they just weren't able to get their hands on because they just didn't have the draft picks to do it, or they were taken before they had their selection. So it's good. It's, in my opinion, I like the move to trade for Kary Vincent from the Denver Broncos. He was a 7th round pick. The Eagles gave him a 6th round pick in order to get him, but he is one of those guys, another one of those guys that kind of opted out of his last year in college due to COVID. But had about six interceptions over the first 3 seasons of his collegiate career. So he also does bring a little bit of versatility to the Eagles defensive backfield. He can play safety, he can play cornerback, he can do both of those things. So in my opinion, what I think is I think this would be a perfect player for Rodney McLeod to grab a hold and get under his wing and teach him some of the reins. But one of those other things I want to talk about too is why are the Philadelphia Eagles collecting cornerbacks? They have about 8 or 9 defensive back cornerbacks now on the roster, and my opinion is it could be maybe they're trying to hit on one of these guys so that they can avoid taking early round cornerback in the 2022 NFL draft. Now, do I think that that's what they should do? No, I don't, because I think if Derek Stingley is sitting there for you to pick him up, I think you should go ahead and draft him if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. But then again, if they hit on one of these guys and these guys pan out to be really, really good, like Tay Gowan coming out and saying that he wants to be the Tom Brady of cornerbacks, and Kary Vincent having that upside, which I do believe he has more than people are aware of. And obviously coming out of LSU, that's a good pedigree to have, being that starter at LSU. That's a good collegiate pedigree to have. We know many defensive backs that have come out of LSU and have done a really, really good job. So, Coach Dante, what's up, my man? Welcome to the chat, my man. And so let's go ahead and jump into some other things as well. Current situation is the Indianapolis Colts are absolutely destroying the New York Jets. It is 28-10. The Indianapolis Colts were just recently stopped in the red zone on 4th down, 5 yards away from the end zone. In my opinion, I think that was a horrible couple of play calls to try and get into the end zone when you have 2nd and 5. So, a direct snap here, and then Carson getting flushed out of the pocket just wasn't a good situation. But let's go ahead and move on. Jets quarterback Mark White is another guy that I want to talk about. Obviously coming in for the injured rookie quarterback Zach Wilson, did a phenomenal job last week. In my opinion, threw for over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, I believe it was. And, before he went down tonight, it looked like he was going to do a decent job. Went for about 7 for 11 or 9 for 11 or something like that, about 70 yards and a touchdown. Injured his forearm on the play, unfortunately. So he looked like he was going to be on pace for another good game as the backup quarterback. So that's unfortunate. He was one of those guys that I kind of wanted to see see what he's got for one of those, one of those unspoken backup quarterbacks that you don't hear a lot about. Similar to Taylor Heineke last year for the Washington football team. I mean when he came in that playoff game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and did a really good job, it caught some people's eyes. That's for sure. Odell Beckham Jr., guys, might be released. Wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. might be a free agent for the first time in his career. He has been asked to, the current update on that situation is he has been asked to stay home by the Cleveland Browns. And so technically, head coach Kevin Stefanski came out either today or yesterday saying that technically right now he's not a part of the Browns. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, like I said, trade deadline came and went. Weren't as many big moves made as maybe we thought there would be. But he is definitely one of those guys that did not get traded, and so we'll see what the Browns end up doing. Maybe they'll just end up releasing him just to void themselves of the distraction. But if they do decide to wait until the 2022 offseason, they might be able to. They'll be able to clear up $15 million in cap, and then also, maybe get some trade compensation back in return. But we'll see. It depends on how patient they want to be. Some other Eagles news as well. Linebacker Wilson, Eric Wilson got released, got waived, and saw that coming. Had to see that coming. He didn't live up to the expectations that we thought he would when we signed him in free agency. Obviously, coming from the Minnesota Vikings and having a pretty decent year last year for them, filling in from some injured starters. Thought that he could bring that level of productivity to the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Did not. Constantly was getting washed out in the run game. And wasn't that good in coverage either. So, but here's what I like. I like that it opens the door up for TJ Edwards. Obviously, TJ Edwards played the most snaps. Actually, Davion Taylor played the most snaps of any linebacker this past week, but TJ Edwards was mainly the guy in the middle that started for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Detroit Lions last week. So he's one of those guys that, again, is unspoken. But since he's been a rookie, hasn't really gotten that big of a chance, but has improved in the background. So I definitely want to see what he's capable of doing, and I hope that he takes the reins and runs with it. And I hope that he brings some ferocity to the Philadelphia Eagles defense. So, honestly, guys, I was going through the Eagles schedule earlier today, and the only real games that I'm actually worried about, I got to be honest with you, the only real games that I'm actually worried about when it comes to this schedule now is this game coming up, the Eagles playing the Chargers at home, and then the Saints game in a couple weeks, and then we get Dallas. So there's really only 3 games that I think that we will be outmatched, maybe outcoached, depends. We'll see. But honestly, like, out of the next 9 games that we have to go, call me crazy, but I could see the Eagles. Going 6-3. Call me crazy, but I could see the Eagles going 6-3. You really have to check out, the weakness of their schedule over these last 9 games. We got the Giants twice. We got the Washington football team twice. We have the Jets, and we have one other team that I cannot remember, but it's not a very, very good team. Oh, the Broncos. So then there's another one, the Broncos. All 6 of those games, I could see the Philadelphia Eagles winning. The Broncos might be a little bit tougher. Washington football team and the New York Giants, might be tougher than I'm giving it credit for, just because of the familiarity. But we'll see. The Giants have played better defense as of late. They're starting to get some healthy guys back that might get Saquon Barkley back, it looks like. So, obviously Saquon Barkley going up against what our run defense has looked like over the past, 8 games. well, seven games before this past week was absolutely god awful. Um, so definitely I could see Saquon Barkley taking over the Eagles defense when that game comes. But yeah, so I mean, the other thing that I want to bring up as well is obviously Deshaun Jackson was released by the Los Angeles Rams. We kind of all saw that coming from a mile away. Uh, they kind of were fed up with Deshaun. Some reports were saying that he's not the same player that he used to be. Some reports were saying that they do see the two sides of Deshaun and that they didn't like the other side of Deshaun. Relating it to similar reasons why Chip Kelly traded him away, which was it's just silly. But yeah, obviously he was waived and went unclaimed, so he is, as of today, free to sign with any team that he so pleases. And then again, I mean, it brings up the OBJ discussion. I don't think that and here I do want to talk about this. Do I think that the Philadelphia Eagles would go after one of these two players? I don't think that they would go after Deshaun Jackson. Again, I don't think that they would bring him back. They already made that decision to bring him back and then made the decision to release him, whether it be cap reasons or not. I just don't see that happening again. But a guy like OBJ, maybe. I mean, he's got 2 years left on, he's got 2 years left on that contract. And if they release him, that's kind of one of those guys. That's kind of one of those guys who is a number one wide receiver who's capable of doing that. And obviously there was the video that was released by Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad that showed all of the amount of times that he got open and how Baker didn't hit him, kind of pretty much just blasting Baker Mayfield. And yeah, it's true. I mean, Baker wasn't hitting Odell when he was open on a lot of occasions. So we'll just have to see. Yeah, we'll just have to see which teams go after him, which teams sign him if he indeed gets released. Right now, there's reports obviously that the Raiders and the Saints and even the Seahawks are linked to Odell Beckham Jr. as of late. Last thing I saw. So, but if the Eagles go out and get him, I mean, would they? I don't know. I can't. I'm not against signing Odell Beckham Jr. I'm not for signing Odell Beckham Jr. It's kind of one of those in between situations, similar to when Julio was on the trade block before the season started. Wasn't for it, wasn't against it, wouldn't mind it. Probably would have been a good idea, honestly, because there needs to be some veteran leadership at the wide receiver position in this locker room, and it's just not there. It's just not there. And by veteran leadership, I don't just mean, morale, personality wise. I also mean a guy who can teach the ins and outs, to younger wide receivers. Toxic Falcons, welcome to the chat today, my man. He believes, honestly, I don't think OBJ is good like he used to be. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's an argument for that. There's an argument for that. But I mean, there was the video that was released by his dad showing how often Odell Beckham Jr. got open and Baker Mayfield just didn't see him or didn't get it to him or underthrew him, overthrew him, da 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 da. So I mean, he still gets open. He still runs routes really, really well. So I think that maybe he's just one of those guys, and it leads me to this kind of, thought process and this kind of conclusion is maybe he's just one of those guys right now in this situation in his career where he just needs a fresh start. He just needs a fresh start. Because even when he was on the Giants, like he still did he still played phenomenally. He's honestly so far this season, he is on pace for the worst season of his career. Doesn't have any touchdowns, has about 200 plus yards. Not very good, coming out of Odell's camp. But then again, Baker needs to find him wide open. Tox Falcon says, but I have also seen OBJ drop wide open passes by Baker this season. Yeah, no, he has, and and look, I'm not trying to make a end all be all argument for Odell, but there are things here and there, and I do believe he's still one of the more talented wide receivers in this league. I think he just needs to find his groove, and maybe it's just a matter of finding new camaraderie with a new quarterback. Who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows? So, we'll just have to see. Another big trade that kind of went down before the trade deadline is the Kansas City Chiefs were able to grab defensive end Melvin Ingram from the Pittsburgh Steelers for next to nothing, honestly. So that should be good for their defensive line. Fletcher Cox apparently was being offered in trade talks. The Eagles were trying to aggressively trade Fletcher Cox, but once that Von Miller trade went down, they wanted a second and a third for Fletcher Cox. The Raiders actually, Tox Falcon says, from what I hear, the Raiders want him, referring to OBJ, but according to the reports, the Raiders were heavily interested in trading for Fletcher Cox as well. So they just weren't willing to trade the second and third round pick, which I think if you can get a second and third round pick for Von Miller, you could probably get that for. I don't think it's unfair to ask for that for Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox is still a really great defensive player. So, yeah, and Tux Falcons, in regards to what you're saying about Odell and the Raiders, I'm hearing reports of a few teams that want him. The Saints are linked to Odell Beckham Jr. The Seahawks, most recently today, I heard that they are linked to Odell Beckham Jr. if he gets released. We'll just have to see. And I do know that. Head coach Kevin Stefanski did come out either today or yesterday saying that technically Odell's not a part of the team right now, because they did ask him to stay home. So Odell is probably not going to play another game in a Cleveland Browns uniform, which is absolutely crazy. He's going to be a free agent for the first time in his career. And my honest opinion is I would welcome Odell Beckham Jr. to my team. I would. I honestly really, really would. Toxic Falcon says, did you hear Michael Thomas is out for the season? I did. He has another injury. And it's just not looking good for Michael Thomas at this point. So, I remember earlier in the offseason we were talking about this. Is he going to get traded? And the reports of him holding out information when it came to an injury and things like that occurred last year, or holding out information as to when he went to go get surgery or whatever. And now he has another injury, and so that's not looking good for the Saints. The other thing that's not looking good for the Saints either, obviously, is their quarterback situation. I'm not very comfortable, if I were a Saints fan, with Trevor Siemian. I just wouldn't be. Tox Falcon says, will Michael Thomas be a Saint after this season? No, I don't think so. To be completely honest with you, and I don't think that the Saints will get a lot for him in a trade. I think that because everything that went down over the last 2 years, and obviously that includes this season, he is worth a late round pick. He's worth a late round pick. A wide receiver that was once untradeable, and you could have put a value on him. And if you did, it would be maybe like a first and a third and more. Is now, I would say, probably in the 5th round to 7th round range as far as trade value is concerned. We're talking about, when the Raiders traded Randy Moss to the New England Patriots back in 2006 or 2007, the Patriots, I believe, only traded a fifth or a sixth for him. That's what I think that the Saints would get for Odell for Michael Thomas. Talks Falcons says Philip Rivers said he would play for the Saints. I did not see that report, honestly. I did see a report saying that he's happy with what he's doing. So I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to bring Philip Rivers in. I don't think they're going to do that. And I don't think he's going to come back to the NFL. I mean, he is retired, so it would probably take a big, a big leap, a big decision for him to unretire and come back and play for the final amount of games in the season. So, but you missed it, Toxic Falcons. I went ahead and I talked about the strength and the weakness of the Eagles' final 9 games of their schedule, and there's honestly only a few. There's honestly only a few games that I'm actually really concerned with, and that's this game for the Eagles, going up against the Chargers at home. The Eagles will be playing in Philadelphia, and then there is the Saints in a few weeks, and then there's the Dallas Cowboys in Week 17. So there's only really 3 out of the next 9 games that I'm actually concerned with. And you tell me what you think. And I'm not trying to make any big jumps or anything like that, but all I'm saying is 6 out of the next 9 games for the Philadelphia Eagles is we play the New York Giants twice, we play the Washington Football Team twice, we play the New York Jets, and we play the Denver Broncos. That's how weak our schedule is over the next 9 games. Though each 6 of those games are winnable. 6 out of those 9 games are winnable for the Philadelphia Eagles. And so what am I talking about this for? I'm saying, like, right now the Eagles are only a game behind the list of teams in the hunt for that 7th wild card spot. And right now, who's in the lead is obviously the Carolina Panthers. The Eagles beat the Panthers already, so they would win that tiebreaker. Boom, bada, boom. Tell me your thoughts. And if they win this Sunday against the Chargers, that's going to be a huge morale boost, huge confidence builder. Tox Falcon says, if they asked Drew to come back, do you think he would? No, I don't think so. I think Drew's happy with what he's doing. Drew is 40, 40 plus. He's made the decision already to leave. So, no, I don't think he would come back. I think if he had any contemplations of possibly coming back, I think it would have happened already. They would have made that move already. I don't think we would be talking about it right now. Dox Falcon says, I will say the Eagles will win Sunday 17-3. That's a phenomenal prediction. I love that prediction. And the reason why I love that prediction is because this is going to be, if the Eagles play smart and try to establish the ground game early, then they can find some balance with the passing attack, and it's going to be, and if they play well, it could turn into a battle like that with the Chargers. I could totally see that happening. I could see the Chargers winning, 31-20 as well. But I don't think so. I think the recent personnel moves the Philadelphia Eagles have done, by releasing Eric Wilson, getting him out of the starting lineup, and then obviously they ended up releasing him a day after the trade deadline. I believe it was the day after the trade deadline. It might have been, yeah, or maybe it may have been Tuesday morning. Um, I think and putting linebacker TJ Edwards as pretty much the main linebacker back there. He's more of our run stopper who can also play in pass coverage, averagely. Um, I think that was a great move. I think that was a great move, and you saw that. Obviously, you saw that effect when they did play the Lions. DeAndre Swift is Swift, no pun intended. He is one of those guys who can be a mismatch against defenses if you get him going. I've always liked his potential, and I still like his potential. But we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see if the Eagles can maintain some consistency. Going from last week to moving forward, and that includes the defense, that includes the offense, that includes everything. But I think that their main focus should be, let's get the ground game going early. Let's try to establish it early, and if we can do it, great. Then we can rely on it throughout the game. Tox Falcon says the Eagles still can make the playoffs. Yeah, they can. Yeah, they definitely can. They're certainly not out of the hunt. They are certainly not out of the hunt. And here's the thing: like, if they can ride this type of offense where it's let's establish the ground game, let Jalen Hurts nitpick the defense here and there on an average level. And I say that because I have not seen elite level Jalen since week 1 against the Falcons. Then I think that they can do some serious damage. But also, it would be great if they established around an offense that was centered around the ground game, and they were able to keep that going. And then Jalen finally gets his groove as we continue to see him develop as the season goes on. And I am gonna go back on some of the things I've said over the past few weeks. Like, I was absolutely livid with Jalen Hurts, and I still kind of am livid with Jalen Hurts. Not livid, but I am disappointed. But here's the thing, if they can establish that ground game in games more often than not moving forward, then it gives Jalen time to really kind of settle in and ease in to his development. Don't put the whole thing on his shoulders all at once. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm saying. It's like they did it with Russell Wilson when he was a rookie, his first few years in the league. They did it with Ben Roethlisberger, his first few years in the league. Like, ease your quarterback in. Stop trying to put everything on his shoulders all at once. You're gonna crumble a rookie quarterback. You're going to crumble a young quarterback that way. Tox Falcon says, I know this is off topic, but your thoughts on Henry Ruggs? Not off topic at all. Not off topic at all. It's one of those things that I did want to go ahead and get to in this stream at some point. My thoughts on Henry Ruggs is it's extraordinarily unfortunate. Driving under the influence is not something that you ever want to do, honestly. But obviously, if you're under the influence, you always think that you make the right decisions. You think that every decision that you make is the right one. That's the issue and the the problem with drinking. But him going 156 miles per hour and getting in that fatal car accident, and it being the cost of someone's life is never a good situation, and unfortunately that happened, and it's unfortunate for everybody involved. It's unfortunate that Henry Ruggs made that decision. A young man who had a really, really bright career ahead of him, and was having a great season. And then it's really, really unfortunate for that family. And so my heart goes out to that family and the one that they lost. It's absolutely horrible. You never want to make that decision, ever. It's not smart. Tox Falcon says, "Man, athletes do some crazy stuff. It's not. It's not just athletes. I mean, that type of situation is not just an athlete thing. That's happened to a lot of people before. So much so that there are DUI laws, and things like that. So obviously, it's not just athletes. It's just a young man made a really horrible decision, and he shouldn't have made that decision, and it's very, very unfortunate for everybody, for everyone involved, Let's go ahead and check in the Colts and Jets game. So it is nearing the end of the third quarter, and the Colts are up 42-16. Guys, by the way, Carson Wentz is having a phenomenal game. He's 19 for 23 for 3 touchdowns, 218 yards. And most of those yards came actually at the beginning, or actually came in the first half. 2 of those touchdowns came in the first half as well. Jonathan Taylor is obviously having a huge game as well. He had 84 yards to end the first half, and now he has 172 yards nearing the end of the third quarter for 2 touchdowns. So the question is, and this probably shouldn't be a question, is Jonathan Taylor going to reach 200 yards? Probably. He's probably going to reach 200 yards. But on top of all that, too, Nyheim Hines has 74 yards on the ground for a touchdown as well, which is absolutely insane. Toxic Falcon says Jets getting killed. Yeah, they are, and it's unfortunate. It's not unfortunate that the Jets are getting killed. I actually want to see Carson Wentz succeed, and I actually want to see Carson Wentz do well. I want Howie Roseman to have as much remorse for his decision to trade Carson Wentz as possible. So there's that. But no, it was it was unfortunate that quarterback Mark White went down, backup quarterback Mark White, who was filling in for rookie quarterback Zach Wilson. Reason being is because after his big game last week for the 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, I wanted to see what he was made of, and he started off the game pretty well. I mean, he went 9 for 11 or 7 for 11 or something like that for about 75 yards and a touchdown. And just got injured his elbow on that touchdown play. So, he is questionable to return. So we'll see if he returns before the end of the game. So we will see. 7 for 11 for 95 yards and a touchdown. So there's that. Josh Johnson's not doing a bad job. Obviously, the 3rd string quarterback. He's 10 for 16 for 154 yards and a touchdown since Mark White went down. But hey, the Colts just came out slinging it. Colts just came out on fire, red hot, and are absolutely putting a killing on the Jets right now. I wonder if they're honestly going to score. I wonder if they're going to put up a 50 burger on them. Honestly. We'll see. I mean, start of the fourth quarter is now, and it's already 42-16. Let's see what they can do. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about some of these other things that I want to get into. Obviously, Von Miller traded to the Los Angeles Rams. And I think it's an incredible job that GM Les Snead is doing over there. How crazy is that, right? To have a defensive back like Jalen Ramsey on your team, and then you have Aaron Donald, and now you have Von Miller added to that defense. It was already a stellar defense before Von Miller was added. But now that he's added, they're going to be bringing in, extra pass rush ability. So they're definitely all in. They're definitely fighting to get back to the Super Bowl. Sean McVay is definitely fighting to get back to the Super Bowl, and we've seen that. We've seen that with the trade for Matthew Stafford, and the trade for Jalen Ramsey, and now obviously, the trade for Von Miller. So, and I think they have a good shot. I really do. But we will see. We will see how it all plans out. Other updates, obviously, around the league. Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, said that he is most likely going to play this week. So I do, against the Denver Broncos, I believe that they play. I believe that the Dallas Cowboys play the Denver Broncos. And they're 6-1. So I mean, them getting Dak back this week is really good for the Cowboys. I hate saying that. I hate that those words just came out of my mouth, but it is really good for the Dallas Cowboys. And in other news, I mean, Kyler Murray being hurt, injuring his ankle, that sucks. That might be a big loss for the Arizona Cardinals over the next few weeks, but hopefully they can get him back without too much damage, moving forward. But guys, let's jump back to the Philadelphia Eagles just because I love to, and it is a Philadelphia Eagles channel, obviously. Now, there's been a lot of talk. Obviously, that's been thrown around, and that talk, obviously, is that owner Jeffrey Lurie doesn't want a run-heavy offense. And so we'll do anything to prevent that from happening. Obviously, every team honestly wants to be a big play offense. They really do. They really do. So I get that. How do you get big plays? Well, you get big plays in the passing game, most likely. I mean, it's the quickest way to get big plays. But and it's exciting. But usually teams around the league understand that if there's a strength somewhere else outside of that, they will find those strengths and try and do what works. So, if it's true, and honestly, these rumors of Jeffrey Lurie, avoiding the run game, even when it's working, even when it gets you wins, just to have a successful pass heavy offense, it would be detrimental, and it is detrimental. And those rumors started last season with Doug Peterson. Maybe even before then, and now they're coming out in droves this season because, in my opinion, I honestly believe that Nick Sirianni is a coach that actually wants to run the ball. I believe that he did it in Indy when he was in Indy. Indy does it all the time. We're looking at the Indianapolis Colts, and Jonathan Taylor is having one of the best seasons at the running back position this season. And with Derrick Henry down and out for the season, he might be the running back that takes home the rushing title this season. So there's that, and we're looking at Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor has 18 carries going into the fourth quarter, for 172 yards. And what did we see from Nick Sirianni when he switched to the run-heavy offense? Against the Raiders, he did it in the very first. He did it on the very first drive, and it was great. Miles Sanders looked like he was going to have a big game, and that's when it started. That's when they really started lining Jalen Hurts up behind center and handing the ball off to the running back. And so that's when the ground game really started to get successful. And then they continued that schematically, going into the Lions game. So there is some dots to connect. It's like, okay, this is the first time that you did this when they did it against the Raiders all season long, and now you're having some success. And then you continue it against the Detroit Lions and you have some great success and you do it all game long. There's some dot connection there. There's some dot connection there. And so my thing is this is, when Nick Sirianni got those back got the ground game going, he got each and every single one of his backs involved. And we're talking about obviously Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, and then you had Kenny Gainwell come in the fourth quarter. And so just imagine if that was Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard. You know what I mean? Just imagine that. Just imagine that. Now, there are some things that I think that Boston Scott can do a little bit better than Miles Sanders, and don't take that away and run with it, because I'm not saying that he's a better back than Miles Sanders whatsoever. Miles Sanders is the clear-cut lead back. So, but I do believe he does have that sneaky, speed, that sneaky speed that can like get up and around corners really, really quickly. Whereas Miles Sanders is kind of the shake and bake guy. And no, there is no dough included. And then obviously, I mean, yeah, Jordan Howard's your power guy. So if they continue the run heavy game, which I hope that Nick Sirianni has the okay to do, then yeah, I think that they can do some really, really good things. The other thing that I noticed on defense that I think that they should do a lot more, clearly Fletcher Cox is having issues with this scheme. But what they did a lot more last week was they got Hassan Ridgeway more involved. They got rookie defensive tackle Milton Williams more involved. And well, what does that do? That brings some guys off the field, because they're not going to bring Javon Hargrave off the field. Javon Hargrave is having a great season in this scheme. But Fletcher Cox isn't performing. And so, yeah, he didn't get traded at the deadline, but hey, I think he's going to get traded in the offseason. And that's partly, and I think it's a part of that youth movement. You know what I mean? I think it's a part of that youth movement. And that's part of the reason why I think the Philadelphia Eagles are collecting cornerbacks right now. We're talking about Tay Gowan, obviously, coming over in the Zach Ertz trade. And then we're talking about, the last minute trade deadline trade with the Denver Broncos for rookie defensive back Kary Vincent. And I brought this up in the earlier in the stream is to me, to me, Kary Vincent is similar to Tay Gowan when it comes to comparison. Kary Vincent and Tay Gowan were both guys that Patrick J and I discussed, in the offseason before the draft, as guys that we liked as far as upside and potential when it came to like late round draft picks, 5th to 7th round. And so I like that we were able to go and get 2 rookie cornerbacks, that teams that both teams were high on. They were high. The Denver Broncos were high on Kary Vincent. They didn't want to get rid of him, but they just did because of the numbers game, and they had some healthy guys coming back, and I'm sure they would have loved to keep him. Same thing with Tay Gowan. Same thing with Tay Gowan when it came to the Cardinals. So I think the thing is this. I think if the Eagles clearly wanted these guys in the draft, they just didn't have the ability to take them, whether it not be enough draft picks or whether it be them being taken before they had their selection. They got them now. And so here's the thing is it's like taking shots. It's like taking shots on a dartboard. At some point, you're going to hit. And hey, if they have either Tay Gowan or Kary Vincent hit, and they end up being really, really good players, or one of them ends up being a good player, that kind of decreases the chances of the Philadelphia Eagles needing to go cornerback early in round 1 of the 2022 NFL draft. So now, do I think that they should do that? As I said earlier in the stream, no, I don't think. I think if Derek Stingley is or Arthur Booth is out of Clemson is there, you go ahead and you get those guys. If you get if either one of those guys are there and and cornerback is a need at that point in time, above everything else, then yeah, I would say go ahead and grab either a Derek Stingley or an Arthur Booth. So you know what I mean. So it's just one of those things. But I definitely believe that the Eagles are focused on getting younger. They're definitely focused on getting younger, and clearly, they're going to be able to get something for Fletcher Cox in the offseason. They're going to be able to get something for Fletcher Cox, which means, they might be able to get a late second round pick from one of the better teams, from one of the contenders. Um, you know, I was a contender. Marlon Brando on the waterfront. Everybody, for who didn't know that, I could have been a contender. It's a great movie. They could get a late second round pick or an early third round pick, and those are prize draft picks to have. Those are prize. Those picks in those rounds, they're really good. They're really, really good to have. But as far as them getting younger, that kind of just leads us into a whole new conversation. And it's a conversation that kind of affects the thoughts of Jalen Hurts. It's a conversation that kind of affects the thoughts of Nick Sirianni and pumping the brakes and all that jazz. Obviously, as I mentioned the other night, and as I've mentioned before, I think Jalen Hurts is more so on the side of being viewed as a bridge quarterback, as far as instead of a franchise quarterback. I think that's where they're at. I think that is where they're at. But I also believe that if that is the case, and and with the facts that we know, that the Eagles are willing to give up veterans to get as many draft picks as they possibly can to get younger and more talented, I think that the Philadelphia Eagles might be okay with having Jalen Hurts be that bridge quarterback past this year, until a real elite level quarterback comes out in the draft, which obviously there's not many, and there really isn't one coming out in this year's draft. So, whether it be Gardner Minshew or whether it be Jalen Hurts next year starting for the Philadelphia Eagles, I think they'll be okay with that. Obviously, do I think that they would prefer, their franchise quarterback, before then? Yeah, I really, really do. I really think that. But I think that the Philadelphia Eagles are playing the long game right now at this point in time, and that's basically what I'm trying to bring, wrap this entire discussion up and point it towards, is I think that they're okay with playing the long game. Which means that I do believe, and this is a prediction, I do believe that the Eagles are going to use one of their first round draft picks, trade back maybe like 5 or 6 spots to pick up another first round draft pick for next year. See, that's the really, really cool thing. And the really fortunate thing about the position that Howie Roseman has put himself in, which is you have 3 first round draft picks in this year. You can use one to trade back and pick up another first the following year, and so on and so forth. And you can continue to do that. It's exactly what the Browns did, and they were able to bring in Baker Mayfield during one of those years. And they were able to get guys like Nick Chubb, Jabril Peppers, who obviously is now on the Giants, but you get my drift. They were able to bring in some successful players. They were able to bring in guys like Denzel Ward. They were able to bring in guys, really, really talented players when they played the long game the way that they did. And who played the long game? Who did that for them? GM John Dorsey. And connect this dot. But the Philadelphia Eagles had John Dorsey as a consultant all of last year, all of last season. So, riddle me this. Are we seeing a game plan that was manufactured by John Dorsey for Howie Roseman? Is that what we're in the middle of? Because if that's what we're in the middle of, and I talked about this a little bit in the offseason. I talked about it a little bit in the offseason, and I thought it could be the case, and maybe it is the case. Maybe it is the case. But, we'll just have to see. But yes, it is my prediction that the Philadelphia Eagles will trade back again in this draft just to pick up that extra first round pick the following year. And why do I say that? Well, I say that because I'm not really well aware of which quarterbacks are coming out in the 2023 NFL draft, but we will see. I think that they'll probably we'll see if there's going to be an elite level quarterback there, but I guarantee I guarantee you there's not going to be many veterans left on this team after the season's over. There's really not. And maybe they're going to say goodbye to Darius Slay and Steven Nelson. Maybe that's why they're collecting cornerbacks. They obviously drafted Zeke McPherson this past year, and they just made trades for Tay Gowan and Kary Vincent Jr. We'll have to see. We will have to see. What's crazy to me is I was listening to a podcast the other day about the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was Bird 365, or no, it was Jacob Media, Birds 365 with Jody Mack and John McMullen. And John McMullen sometimes, he says some good things. Sometimes he's obviously a Philly reporter. He says some good things sometimes, but sometimes he just says the most, off-color things in the world that make absolutely no sense. Like, oh, the Philadelphia Eagles, they like Marcus Epps. They like Marcus Epps. So much so that he might start over Anthony Harris. What? Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, Anthony Harris missed the last couple games with an injury. But Marcus Epps isn't gonna take over for Marcus Epps isn't gonna take over Anthony Harris at the safety position. No way, no how. You can't no. Yeah, you can like a player. And yes, Marcus Epps is young, and yes, Marcus Epps is developed and gotten better, over this season. But or over this season and the past couple seasons, and he's not playing horrible. He's playing decent. And he's still young. He's like 23, 24, but he's not going to take over the starting safety spot he's not going to take it away from Anthony Harris. It's just not going to happen. Just not going to happen. So yeah, that's my thing. I think that's absolutely crazy that John McMullen even would mention that. I mean, it just makes no sense. It just makes no sense. So, yeah. Anyway, wrapping up that conversation is there's a few things that I hope for, and I hope that the Philadelphia Eagles do trade back with one of their picks. I got to be honest with you. Coming from an Eagles fan, that's probably not something that you would hear every day, but they can afford to do it this year. And I do think that they should trade for Fletcher Cox. I do think that they should trade Fletcher Cox in the offseason, get some extra picks. And I wouldn't be opposed of trading Darius Slay away. I honestly would not be. If it's for the betterment of the future, and if you can get something good for him, then make the move. Just make the move. Things of that nature. So I'm really excited. Another thing I want to talk about is I'm really excited about the development of Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson, obviously is living up to that second round pick, you know, or that second round expectation that we had him at, you know, you know, he was one of those guys before he got hurt that, you know, he could have been a first rounder. The Philadelphia Eagles were able to get him in the second round, and he's starting to you know, continue to play, continue to get reps, and play healthy, and get stronger, and really mauling some people on the offensive line. So I can't wait for that tandem. You know, when it comes to the future, obviously by that tandem I mean the left side of the offensive line, which is, you know, Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson. The two of them together could be a real force to be reckoned with. And we saw glimpses of that against the Detroit Lions as well. We saw glimpses of that. So, yeah, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for those guys to continue to develop and continue to reach their ceiling. So, and reach the maximum of their potential, because I really think that it could be a really cool thing. So, but let's check in on the Jets and Colts game. It is 45-23. Colts over Jets. Colts over Jets. I really want the Colts to put up another touchdown, to be honest with you. I really want them to hit that 50 mark. So, but Carson Wentz is 22 of 29 for 272 yards and 3 touchdowns. You know, absolutely phenomenal, guys. Absolutely phenomenal. So, and like I said, Josh Johnson's not having a bad game. You know, backup quarterback for the Jets. 16 of 23 for 202 yards and 2 touchdowns. You know, I think it's absolutely respectable. It's just you're getting out coached and you're getting outplayed. That's about that. And the Jets defense sucks. Jets defense sucks. It really, really does. It really, really does. That's why I can't wait until the Eagles play the Jets, honestly. And getting back to the schedule too is, again, I'll say it again. I think it's possible for the Eagles to go 6-3 the rest of the way. I'm not gonna lie. They have their bye week in week 14. They'll get some much needed rest. You know, so, and if they can, and Talks Falcons, if you're still in here, you know, if they can beat the Chargers this week, that's going to be a huge confidence boost. And I wouldn't, and you know, if they do that and they get that confidence boost, they get that morale boost, I would love to see how that affects the team moving forward. And I want to talk about Nick Sirianni a little bit. because I think he gets a little too much hate. Honestly, look, this is a guy who is first year head coach. Yeah, has he made some bad decisions so far this season? Yeah, he has. You know, has he had some mistakes? Yeah, he has. But he's a first year head coach. You know, he's young, you know, and you know, they're going to make some mistakes. You know, for head coaches, the development is a lot more complex than the development of a young quarterback. It really is. You know, you got to get used to your players. There's new players coming out or going out every single year. You know, you got to get used to your players. You got to figure out what works for them. You got to figure out how to game plan for different teams moving forward. And, you know, you gotta get used to adjusting in game on the fly all the time because, some teams are going to shut down what you do best and some teams aren't. And some teams are going to make you do different things and some teams aren't, and so far, obviously, and I go back and I reference this because, that week one, obviously the Eagles, Nick Sirianni, nobody really had any tape on Nick Sirianni, how the Eagles were going to run under Nick Sirianni. And so, yeah, they came out on fire against the Atlanta Falcons in week one. Everybody kind of had a great game. But, week two came around and they played a much better defense than the San Francisco 49ers with much better personnel. And they kind of laid an egg and they weren't, they didn't play disciplined. And that's another thing too, is another thing for the head coach to worry about is, how disciplined are my players playing? And yeah, is that in response to the head coach? Yeah, it is. If they continue to do it over and over and over and over and over again. And the one thing that we saw obviously earlier in the season, penalties were plaguing the Philadelphia Eagles a shit ton. And other things happening like Jalen Reagor stepping out of bounds on what would have been a touchdown. Same thing with Devontae Smith. And now we're not seeing the penalties come. It's been about 3 weeks. The Eagles, the Eagles had about 4 penalties in the game before they played the Raiders and then didn't have a lot of penalties against the Raiders. And then barely had any penalties against the Detroit Lions. And so it is starting to get better. It is starting to get better. Nick Sirianni is starting to learn, or that's the hope. That's the hope. And obviously, again, rerouting this entire thing in my brain, is the consistency. The consistency to doing what works, right? The consistency into doing what works. And what works? What's working right now? Well, your offensive line is strong. The strength of your offense, that's your strength. Your offensive line is your strength. And so rely on the strength of your offensive line, run the ball so those guys can get after the guys in front of them and impose some fear. You know what I mean? And so, and same thing with, and it's not even just, this mindset's not even just about Nick Sirianni either. It's about Jonathan Gannon too. Adjusting to your personnel, adjusting to the personnel. And obviously we've seen that. We've he obviously came into the season and they were rotating linebackers like crazy to figure out which pairing worked best. You know what I mean? And now I think they finally got their grasp on which pairing works best. And so that's why it gave them the ability to, release linebacker Eric Wilson. It gave them the confidence that they could do that. And also, the improvement of TJ Edwards and the improvement of Davion Taylor and how well those guys have been playing and how well they played last week, obviously, helped them make that decision to release Eric Wilson. So, and then also having Alex Singleton come in only strictly on passing downs and on blitz packages. I think that Jonathan Gannon is adjusting to the personnel that he has, and I think that he did it successfully last week. And so again, it does come back around to consistency. Can they continue to do it? Can they continue to do it? So, and that's gonna be huge. I mean, the final 9 games of this season is going to say a lot about Nick Sirianni. It's going to say a lot about Jonathan Gannon. But, if they can continue to improve and continue to get better, at least a little bit, every day, then, yeah, he should have a season past this season. And I don't think that that's up in question. I don't think that that's really up in question anyway. You know what I mean? I don't think that that's in up. I don't think that's in the air. I think I think Jeffrey Lurie is usually one of those guys that when he gives an opportunity to be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, it's a 2-year minimum situation, usually. And so, it's like, you got 2 years to prove to me you can do it. And And so yeah, he's got 2 years. It's not just there is no one and done situation. I don't believe. As long as you can show that you can continue to get better, and they are, whether we like it or not, they're showing that they can continue to get better. You know who isn't though, and I hate to say this because I so badly want him to succeed. I like him. I think he's great. I think his personality is a great fit for Philadelphia. But Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts. He has not shown me, and he has not shown others, that he is getting better. He's just not. And I really hope that changes, because I would love to revitalize my opinions of Jalen Hurts and how I think that I would, and how I want him to get better and succeed, and and have faith in him again, in his potential and in his development. And I think that's it right there. That's it right there. Is do I have faith in his development? No, I don't. Not at this current moment. I do not. Did I? Yeah, I did. I did, but it severely took a hit with some of the things that I've seen over the past, 8 games. And even in games where we've won, with the exception of the Falcons game, and that's only obviously the Carolina Panthers and this past game against Detroit, but even in those games, it's like, yeah, but you still missed this guy. You still missed the shot, the throw that you should make 100% of the time, 7 yards to the left, or 8 yards to the right, or you overthrew a wide open Zach Ertz on a 20-yard crosser. It's like, so, need to see Jalen make the leap. But like I said before, right now I think he's kind of in the. I think they've made their decision. I think they've made their decision to label him as a bridge quarterback, and I think that's why we saw what we saw. I think that's why we're going to continue to see some of the things that they did, last week. So, Talks Falcon says, "All right, I'm back." I said so much while you were gone, but I'm not gonna get back into it. You'll probably have to go back, rewatch, make sure you like. But yeah, current score in this Jets Colts game, it's 45-30. Wow. Talking about making a game look close, huh? Talking about making a game look closer than it actually is. This is it right here. Again, I'll get back to it too, is, third stringer Josh Johnson for the New York Jets is not having a bad game. 19 for 29 for 241 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not bad at all. But honestly, I think the but honestly, I think this one's going to be wrapped up into a pretty bow, saying how Carson Wentz pretty much regained his form for the season after his mistakes in the final seconds of the Titans game last week. But Talks Falcon says, I can definitely say Rodgers is ready to leave the Packers. Yeah. I really don't know what Aaron Rodgers is ready for. I definitely think that he's ready to leave the Packers. But I don't he just doesn't seem into it anymore. I just don't know. I just don't know what Aaron Rodgers wants. And yeah, I think that, and I don't think he'd come to I don't think he'd come to Philadelphia. Um, but I could definitely see him going to Denver for sure. I could definitely see him going to Denver for sure. And that might be the destination. That might be the destination in the 2022 offseason for the Green Bay Packers. I think the Green Bay Packers are ready to move to Jordan Love. I think that they were, in the offseason when they weren't sure if Aaron was going to come back. I think that they were starting to make that decision in their head or get used to that decision in their head. And I think that they were kind of edging along there. But yeah, Aaron, I don't know. I couldn't tell you what Aaron wants. Aaron is kind of, he's kind of annoying me lately, honestly. Like his ignorance or his arrogance and stubbornness kind of, and it's a very subtle thing. But I just, Docs Falcons says Denver offense is trash. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it kind of has been for a while. And they've kind of been in that basement, right? They've kind of been in that basement since Peyton Manning left. So yeah, it's an issue for them. It's definitely an issue for them. That's why I think the Philadelphia Eagles can beat them this season. I think that will be a win. Talks Falcon says, I know this may sound petty, but I don't want to see the Packers win a Super Bowl this season. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see the Packers make it to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that they'll get beat. I'm going to say, I honestly will say this, is I think that the NFC conference championship game is gonna come down to the Buccaneers and the Cardinals. Really, that's what I believe. So, yeah, Buccaneers and Cardinals. Obviously the Cardinals are in a tough spot right now because Kyler Murray is going to be out for a few weeks. But once he comes back, they should be able to pick up right where they left off, no problem. There might be a little bit of hesitation on Kyler's part just because of the fact that his ability is a lot is focused towards his ability to kind of maneuver in the pocket and his quick feet, and so him coming off an ankle injury might hinder those abilities at the start. Talks of Falcons, you mean? No, I don't mean the Falcons whatsoever. I don't think the Cowboys. I don't think the Cowboys fans. They get really excited and they suck. They're good, but they suck. They have a 6-1 record, but they suck. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just they're gonna watch. They just do. They just do. It's in their DNA. It's in the Cowboys' DNA. It's in their, to lose. And so, they can go 15-1 or 16-0 for all I care. They're still gonna lose in the playoffs. And watch, they'll probably lose to a team like the Cardinals or like Green Bay, or maybe even one of these wild card teams. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, the Cowboys, they just suck. They just suck. Docs Falcon says, I will say I was mad at the refs and coaching staff for not stopping the game from Matt Ryan's hand. Yeah, that was kind of screwed up. They should have done that. And hopefully they do that, moving forward. Hopefully that doesn't happen, again soon, where somebody steps on somebody's hand and he's bleeding out like a, like the river, like the Red River. But you know, yeah, that was kind of screwed up. I agree. I agree with you, Toxic Falcons. I definitely agree with you. So, but all right, guys, this is DB talking now. DB talking Birds. DB talking Philadelphia Eagles. We talked quite a bit about a lot. Toxic Falcons, thank you so much for joining in today. Coach Dante, I don't think is in the chat anymore, but it was good to have him as well. I hope you guys have a beautiful and safe evening, and stay safe, stay healthy, one love, and go Birds, baby.